Well, good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News at 5. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
And I'm Whitney Ward. We do begin tonight with new information from a report by the Department of Natural Resources that is giving us a better idea of what sparked the devastating Gray Fire more than 6 months ago. Investigators found Inland Power and Light is responsible for starting that fire that ultimately burned more than 11,000 acres and killed one person.
We have complete team coverage tonight. I looked into the next steps in the potential legal action against the utility company Inland Power and Light. Nathan Hyun spoke with families who lost their homes in the fire, but we begin with KREM 2's Shannon Mowdy, who's giving us an in-depth breakdown of that report. Shannon?
This is a summary of a 300-page DNR report showing wildland fire investigators knew within hours of the Gray Fire sparking it was likely due to faulty equipment owned by Inland Power and Light. A senior wildland fire investigator sums it up. Inland Power was responsible for this fire. DNR's investigation found the Gray Fire was caused by sparks from a security light traveling onto dry grass. It's unsurprising, but welcome news for attorneys John Allison and Gerald Singleton.
They're independent, they're objective, they don't have skin in the game other than to find the truth.
Obviously, we think very important that they agreed with our theory of the case.
In 2 separate lawsuits brought by hundreds of fire victims, investigators also pointed at faulty Inland Power and Light equipment as the fire's cause. DNR's report details how a state investigator discovered the fire's origin at 12605 Gray Road, across from the Inland Light pole that showed signs of melting or burning. A V-shaped burn pattern shown here on photos from the scene also pointed the investigator to the fire's starting point. At least 2 witnesses reported seeing sparks coming from this pole after the fire started. But the report also shows there were concerns about the light months before the blaze.
Looks like they made a mistake, and it looks like their lines were what caused this. And so they're going to have to make it right.
One witness says she called Inland Power to report the light flickering from a possible loose wire. As far as she knew, Inland Power never followed up. DNR investigators took 2 pieces of the pole for evidence, but they didn't look like they fit together. It appeared there might be something missing to make these connections. Inland Power's attorney told investigators a crew that disconnected power shortly after the fire started brought 3 pieces back to the Spokane office. These 3 pieces were reviewed by a DNR investigator, and the attorney for Inland agreed the company would hold on to them as evidence after sending them to a California lab. However, DNR's investigator writes, when he went to pick up the evidence October 9th, 1 piece was missing. The lab reported an aluminum conductor with cut marks and melted aluminum wasn't sent, and Inland's attorney said he didn't know where that missing piece was. While the report may strengthen their cases, Singleton and Allison say the legal battle to reclaim uninsured losses isn't over.
I talked to one elderly woman who couldn't get insurance, and the fire took everything she had. I mean, she was left with the clothes on her back, and it's just heartbreaking.
They are still interviewing witnesses and compiling reports, preparing to possibly bring the cases to a jury.
We're trying to make the homeowners whole. In many ways, they'll never be able to accomplish that because of all they've been through, but we're doing the best we can.
Both attorneys believe these lawsuits could go to a jury trial by next year if Inland Power doesn't settle first. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Shannon, thank you very much. In the meantime, victims of the Gray Fire are still trying to pick up the pieces, many still getting their properties cleaned up, others still figuring out what it will take to rebuild.
So we do turn now to KREM 2's Nathan Hyun out in Medical Lake, getting reaction from some of those wildfire victims. Nathan?
Mark, Whitney, good evening. Well, 6 months since the Gray Fire, and the picture here in Medical Lake is still grim. Now, this property was destroyed by the Gray Fire, and for the families who lost homes in the Gray Fire, they say the report isn't surprising and that it's still a long road ahead for their journey.
Robert Mountjoy has lived in Medical Lake for 19 years. He wasn't at home when the fire broke out on August 18th of last year. His wife was and only left with the clothes on her back.
It's a real hardship for us because we left with 2 shirts.
Throughout the last 6 months, Mountjoy and his family have done their best to recover.
I don't want to look back. because it's very difficult.
When Mountjoy saw DNR's report that the Gray Fire was likely caused by sparks from an inland power light, he wasn't surprised. He says it confirmed what he knew all along.
I don't think it surprised anybody, the source of the fire. I don't think it came as any surprise.
Others say the report doesn't change anything.
My first reaction was, doesn't change anything. It's still burned down.
Terry Andrews lost his home on Silver Lake. He says the cause of the fire is the least of his worries now.
We're just looking forward to the future. We're looking at the positives, and the community has been amazing.
As for Mountjoy, he's ready for what's to come.
We're rebuilding on top of the existing foundation with a little different home.
Homes are slowly rising up in Medical Lake, and it's a heartwarming sight for Mountjoy and Andrews, who lost everything.
So there were a couple of names listed as witnesses in the report. I had a chance to speak with two of them. They say that they're glad the report is complete and that it is a step forward for everyone affected. For now, live in Medical Lake, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
And at the same time the Gray Fire started, the Oregon Road Fire also burned in the El Chattaroy area.
A DNR investigation into that fire was completed just a few weeks ago. Here is an update now. According to DNR, based on witness statements, the wildland fire investigation determined the cause of the fire to most likely be human, spontaneous combustion, source unknown. That confirms what fire investigators said in September, that the Oregon Road Fire was human caused. Now, that does not mean it was intentionally set. It could have been farming equipment or something else, but they're not sure how or where.
And just last month, Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers and Senator Maria Cantwell sent a letter to President Joe Biden urging a federal major disaster declaration for both areas.
And coming up in just 10 minutes, we continue our coverage of the fallout of this report. I look into what comes next after DNR forwards its report to the state attorney general and any legal action that may occur. That story coming up in just 10 minutes.
We do want to take a quick break now from the headlines to talk weather and the return of rain and maybe even a tiny bit of snow.
Let's get right to chief meteorologist Jeremy Legoo for more on what we can expect. Jeremy?
Well, when it comes to the chance of snow, it's not the greatest, but it's still a chance nonetheless, and we do likely see a few snowflakes. But with how warm we've been the past few days, how warm we are now, and how warm we're going to be each afternoon, getting that snow to stick is going to be a difficult task. 41 degrees as we currently sit, and that's even as our cooler air mass starts to pool its way in. That is the trough over the coast in that storm down in California, but that's what's helping that cold air move in overhead. That's also what gives us the chance of a few scattered showers making their way in. We've got all that moisture teeming in from the south, so what happens is we got the cold air overhead and we wind up seeing a few of those kind of pop-up scattered showers throughout the day tomorrow. Eventually those start moving out as we get a more zonal or west to east flow that gets rid of some of that moisture. By Thursday afternoon, we might catch a peak of sun, but I don't have much faith in it. I think a stray shower in the afternoon is equally likely. But then what winds up happening is Friday morning, we get our next wave of energy moving through. It moves quick, it comes in early, and it likely gives us a quick dusting or coating of snow. How much? Less than a half an inch. And with that, I think most of that would melt. So no big concerns, but still a chance nonetheless.